Today we're talking about cash and prizes. That's right, I said cash and prizes. We're talking about financial recovery and what happens in recovery when you get money. Does the money change you, and can you actually become a victim of your own success? All this and more in today's Financial UA video. Hey, welcome. My name is Jay from Baltimore, Maryland, and I want to welcome you to the Financial UA General Service Office. Come on in and grab a seat, and let's get this meeting started. Once you start working the Financial UA program and begin creating and attracting prosperity, what do you do with all the cash and prizes? As you complete your amends and set your personal universe back into balance, the world and its people really open up to you. Money in abundance start flowing to you. What do you do with all that? Once you complete your step work and actively begin accomplishing all your goals and materializing your visions, and all your dreams start coming true, what do you do with your life? And how do you work your recovery? Do you consider yourself as being a graduate of the program? Do you stay committed to working the program? Do you stick around to pass it on, or do you cash out and run? In recovery, many people over the years seem to become a victim of their own success. Their prosperous earning fills them with premature overconfidence, and they typically stop working the steps, deciding that they got what it is they really wanted, which was financial improvement. And it's true, financial improvement is something that happens very early in the process of financial recovery. Unfortunately, many people don't stick around until they get financial recovery. They only stick around until they get financial improvement. So they're basically looking for the quick gains instead of sticking around for the long-term success. Let's look at lottery winners, people who become lottery rich. The rush of new money and prosperity completely destabilizes them. Money makes people become more of who they already are. If somebody is generous, they just become more generous when they have more money. But if a person is a jerk, more money just makes them into more of a jerk. If you don't have a spiritual center, then a large windfall of money is just going to destabilize you and take you out of your character. If someone is in their financial disease, then winning the lottery is like pouring gasoline on a dumpster fire. I'm sure you've probably heard stories about people who do win the lottery, and most of the time, those folks tend to be the sort of folks that don't really have much of a financial plan. They don't have much of a long-term strategy or an earning plan, income plan, savings plan, or investment plan. They just are randomly playing the lottery for the sake of playing the lottery. It's a game to them. And then randomly, one of those people tends to be the winner. When they've done studies, and I won't go into trying to quote all the studies, I'm sure you can look at and research most of that stuff on the internet yourself, but when they looked at the statistics of how many people who are lottery winners maintain their winnings and their wealth over a long period of time, then the percentage is really, really low. And what they notice is those people, because they essentially got a quick dime, they spend that dime quickly, as compared to people who earn a slow nickel, who save that nickel and spend it very slowly. So those lottery winners, they get this quick money, but they spend it quickly, and they spend it on all the typical frivolous things, boats and cars and trips and all that sort of stuff, but they don't really take the money seriously because they didn't earn it. They didn't work for it. So in one way, that money has no real value to them other than just being a thing to be spent. In Financial UA, our approach to the money really shows a lot of respect for the money. It shows respect for the process of earning the money, of developing oneself and becoming the kind of person who attracts opportunity, who attracts money, who becomes a good trusted servant. because money loves a trusted servant. What we found is really significant amounts of wealth and savings and investments and income tend to gravitate towards the people who have truly cultivated themselves over a period of time to be a good steward, to be a good caretaker, to be the kind of person who cherishes that spiritual money and takes good care of it and knows how to invest it and save it and cultivate it and nurture it, so that amount of money becomes greater and greater over time. So their wealth appreciates over time as compared to the lottery winner who just receives a big amount of money in the moment very spontaneously, doesn't know how to handle it, and then spends it all very quickly because the money really has no real value to that person, so they frivolously fritter it away. Many of these lottery winners also discover too late that they are completely unprepared for the lifestyle changes that big money brings. Most lotto winners squander away their money. Also, for example, when a debtor or a compulsive gambler scores that big win, a few of them might be able to hold on to the money, but for a while, yet it doesn't take long until they end up blowing all the money and typically end up deeper in debt than they were before. The problem was that the money was a short-term solution to a long-term problem in their particular circumstance. For people who are in their financial disease, whether it's debting, gambling, or financially under-earning, the long-term problem is their lack of personal maturity, their active addiction, whether it's being addicted to debting, to gambling, or to living a diminished lifestyle based on scarcity and deprivation, and also their internal damaged character. Put a lot of money on top of a person who has no sense of center, no spiritual focus, and no emotional maturity, and they become a time bomb. Their money ends up creating way more damage to them in their life. It does more harm than good. If you ask somebody addicted to crack cocaine, they'll tell you that everything can fit inside the crack pipe. Their car, their house, their retirement, their spouse, their job, their hopes and their dreams. Everything fits inside of a crack pipe and can be smoked away. When a full-blown alcoholic has financial resources, they will use all that money as an enabler. The money enables them to keep drinking. It enables them to keep avoiding the consequences of their dysfunctional behavior. Now that we've talked about the problem and how money can do more harm than good when a person is in their disease of debting, gambling, addiction, alcoholism, or financial under-earning, let's talk a little bit about what the solution looks like. And again, money doesn't fix a person, especially if a person is broken on the inside. If they are in their disease, or if they don't have the internal structure, which is another way to say maturity, but if they don't have the internal character or fortitude to handle what that money does to their personality, how it changes them, what it does when they have to reevaluate their entire lifestyle in order to accept that money, to accept being in a relationship with money. Because let's face it, anytime a person gets into a relationship with any person, place, or thing, they have to change their life a little bit in order to fit that new relationship in. And they have to continue that change in order to keep the relationship in their life. It's when they don't change, or if they don't know how to change, that's when the relationship starts to fall apart because the person doesn't know how to maintain it. Let's talk about what financial recovery does for a person once they start earning in a prosperous, stable, and sober way. They got a great story in Alcoholics Anonymous and also Narcotics Anonymous about how alcoholics in recovery, or addicts in recovery, automatically get a pay raise when they stop using the drug of their choice. Suddenly they have a lot more disposable income because they're not using all of it to pay for booze or drugs. When it comes to debtors in recovery, once they've managed to pay back all their debts, they've paid off their credit cards, their mortgage, their personal debts, the school loan. After all of those debts are paid off, suddenly the debtor now has a lot more disposable income on his or her hands. Or also, for example, once you learn how to show up for your job as if you were a trusted servant rather than a disgruntled employee, you will typically start getting raises and promotions and suddenly have a lot more disposable income. Once you're seen as a dependable and trustworthy person with good character and emotional stability, people begin to entrust you with more money and wealth. What do you do with all of it? The more you recover around your work ethic, the more your career and your income will tend to grow. Again, what do you do with all that new income and prosperity? And also, once an alcoholic is sober and he's able to see all of the opportunities for earning income, savings, and wealth building that he would have otherwise ignored, suddenly he realizes he has luxury problems. What is he going to do with all of the money he now has? Many times in all of those instances where people experience the benefits of recovery and they're released from the drug of their choice, and suddenly they realize at the end of the month they have a lot of money left over, a lot of disposable income, that money often acts as a huge source of temptation to lure them back into drinking or using because they don't know what to do with the money, because they've been in such a long cycle of spending it as soon as it comes in. They've been in a cycle of compulsively releasing that money to chase after useless things or to chase after their addiction, rather than having learned how to be a good trusted servant and a good steward of that money, to be able to take it and nurture it and cultivate it, to save it, invest it, and have it grow and grow. All of these types of skills take time to learn, and unless a person has been sober in their head and stable emotionally and centered spiritually, they typically won't have spent the time or done the due diligence or research to learn all of the skills necessary to be in a healthy relationship with money. Well, this is where financial UA comes in. Financial UA has a tremendous set of skills, tools, our step work process, our traditions studying process, even our fellowship as a whole. The whole package of financial UA is tremendously designed to be able to walk people through, first of all, how to get sober or clean from financial under-earning, how to release financial under-earning, and to teach them how to embrace their prosperity and to learn how to start living in healthy relationship with prosperous money, prosperous earning, prosperous income. Now's the time for sharing. Who'd like to take a share? In the comments section below, please leave a positive, non-offensive share of your experience, strength, and hope. What would it be like if you reached cash and prizes? What would it feel like, and what would it look like if you were restored to prosperity? And how would it feel if you were able to make a connection to an earning power that restored you to prosperity? Please leave your experience, strength, and hope. The wonderful part about leaving experience, strength, and hope and about sharing is that other people can learn from your experience, strength, and hope. That way, you can be a teacher, other people can be a student. And the other way around, you have the opportunity to learn from other people's experience so they can be a teacher and you could be a student. Good recovery is an environment where everybody is both a student and a teacher. That way we all win. So again, please leave your experience, strength, and hope around what it's like to receive cash and prizes in recovery. Do you have a good story to share? Do you have a good anecdote? Perhaps something that happened to you or your sponsor or your sponsee? Something that you witnessed in program over the years? Remember to keep it anonymous, keep the names out, but share the story. And also, if you like being able to share your experience, strength, and hope, please please consider hitting that like button and giving us a big thumbs up for cash and prizes. Prosperity can be very seductive for people who are just not used to it. Sometimes when a person who's been suffering from financial under-earning, meaning that they've been living at a level of earning that barely meets their needs, much less meets their wants, or even possibly would leave them with enough earnings or income or money to put into savings for investments or wealth building. Imagine a person who's been living at such a diminished level for so long that they've grown accustomed to living without. They've grown accustomed to living with less, where scarcity is their normal. Oftentimes they do not know how to handle prosperity when it finally comes their way. So this is an ironic problem in recovery, where for financial under-earners, once they start to thrive in recovery, once they connect with an earning power greater than themselves that can begin to restore their prosperity, then they start to experience financial improvement as part of their journey towards financial recovery. And that journey is a lengthy journey. It's 12 steps long. But sometimes people, just at step 1 or step 2, might start experiencing financial improvement. The temptation is so great, the seductiveness of that very meager yet very new level of prosperity is so strong that it seduces people away from their spiritual journey. So many times I've had people in sponsorship who stopped working their prosperity recovery around step 1, 2, or 3, or maybe even a little bit further in the step work. But they stopped working the step work because they were so overwhelmed and satisfied with the prosperity that they immediately received that they wanted to cash out and take that prosperity and just run with it, and then they would usually drop out of program, rather than stay in recovery to continue receiving prosperity and then of course move towards the end of the 12-step journey to finish their step work and experience financial recovery. And again, financial recovery is the kind of thing where all of the gains that you make along the journey are finally yours to keep. Whereas what happens when people quit the process in the middle of the process, or even at the beginning of the process, taking their financial improvement, taking those short-term gains and cashing out, what usually happens is they only tend to keep those gains for a short period of time, but then they fritter those gains away, they spend it, they treat themselves, oftentimes is what happens, or they compulsively spend the money, or spend it all paying off all their debts, which debt repayment is a good thing, but it's not so good when it leaves a person with nothing left over for themselves, much less something left over for saving for their future self. So again, sometimes people cash out way too early. Another variation of this is when people begin their financial recovery process and they receive financial improvement, again, usually very early in the process. They typically get a raise at work, have more customers, maybe get a promotion. They find money that they used to be vague around before, so lost money suddenly resurfaces. But what happens is, from a lot of different directions, prosperity and income starts to flow towards them. And very quickly they become accustomed to that new prosperity, and they try to raise their lifestyle up to the level of that prosperity. They quickly buy a car, get an apartment, find a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, but they try to get all those things that they have been starved of for so long, that they've been living in deprivation around for so long. They try to get it all back really, really quickly. And it's understandable. It's part of human nature that we want those things for ourselves, and the more that we are denied them, the more urgent we feel that need to get them once we do have the ability to get them. So it's understandable, but what happens, especially in early recovery for some financial under-earners, is that once they get the girlfriend, the boyfriend, or whatever, or whoever, and the car, the apartment, but they get those material possessions, the job, the promotion, what happens is the gifts of recovery take a person out of recovery, meaning that the person places so much value and importance on those gifts, on the girlfriend, boyfriend, promotion, job, new apartment, new house, car. All those things suddenly become a person's higher power. And they worship those things, they desire them, they long for them so strongly that when looking at those things and saying, what do I need to do in order to hold on to these new things that I have? And then they look at what it is that they maybe need to let go of, because, there's only so much time, energy, and attention to give, and sometimes it's hard to split those things among the different gifts and resources, relationships, and obligations we have. Very typically, addicts who think in terms of all or nothing, they would rather think all in terms of holding on to all the cash and prizes, all of the gifts of recovery, and then they look at the nothing, which means going to meetings, doing their step work, calling their sponsor, receiving regular PRGs, and connecting with higher power, and they say, you know what, all of that's going to go into the nothing category. And what they do is they quit working program and they put all of their energy into chasing the gifts of recovery. And then eventually what happens, they lose the recovery. They lose the very thing that helped them to get the gifts in the first place. And to see that happen is tragic. To see that happen to somebody that you sponsor, to see that happen to your sponsees, is heartbreaking. So part of this video is meant to help make you aware of this tendency of people who, especially financial under-earners, who have been living in scarcity and deprivation for so long, that when you finally start working a financial recovery process and you start doing work in financial UA and connect with your earning power, you're going to come to these moments where you need to make decisions about what is more important to you: to continue with your spiritual process, to continue working your steps, and to move through the financial improvement to get to the financial recovery, or do you want to cash out, grab all your cash and prizes quickly to settle for your financial improvement, and then quit the program? In financial UA, our step number 2 says we come to believe that an earning power greater than ourself could restore us to prosperity. What does that mean, being restored to prosperity? Does it mean suddenly, once we connect with a higher power, that earning, income, and prosperous money starts falling out of the skies into our lap? Does it mean that out of the blue we receive a knock on the door or a phone call from somebody who wants to offer us a prosperous job earning 6 figures? What does it mean to be restored to prosperity? I've noticed over the years that financial under-earners have a lot in common with addicts, alcoholics, debtors, compulsive overeaters, sexaholics. And that thing, if I were to distill it down into one word, it would be intensity. So financial under-earners, I've noticed, seem to have a high level of intensity, much like any other type of addict. And the way that I've noticed that is because financial under-earners, when they look over their history, manage to go not just a little bit into financial under-earning or just a little touch of scarcity and deprivation. When I see these financial under-earners go all out, they go all out. They get really into financial under-earning, or they live very, very, very far in deprivation and scarcity. They really go over the edge, above and beyond, you might say. Or you might also say they go to any length for their disease as opposed to going any length for their recovery. But even though this is bad, when they're in their disease, it's actually good that they have this same trait, because once the recovery process happens, they simply maintain that level of intensity, but it starts moving in the opposite direction. Whereas first it was moving in the direction of their financial under-earning, but through the process of recovery, that intensity changes direction, so now they're moving in the direction of prosperity. So that's part of what it means to be restored to prosperity, that the step work has the ability to take all of the energy, force, and momentum behind an addict's internal drive and impulsiveness and intensity to move in the direction of their disease, recovery, higher power, and earning power has the ability to take that energy, that intensity and momentum, and flip it around the same way a martial artist would flip an opponent or use an opponent's own force against them. So it does the old flipperoo, and it takes all of that energy, drive, passion, intensity, and it channels it in a different direction. And as long as a person has learned a lot of good skills to prosper and thrive and to develop their ability to be a good trusted servant, all that energy goes in the direction of healing and prosperity. Now it's time for our 7th tradition. Every financial UA meeting ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. There are no dues or fees for financial UA membership. All of our meetings and workshops are completely free to attend, both over the phone and face-to-face. Please keep in mind that we do have expenses such as covering the cost of our website, developing new literature, and maintaining our service office. If you would like to make a 7th tradition donation, you can click the PayPal link below or visit our website at financialua.org and click the donate button. You can also support this program by purchasing a copy of our Financial UA 12-Step Workbook or our Financial UA Traditions Workbook. Also, you can help us carry the message by subscribing to our channel and even by sharing this video with your sponsor or your sponsee. Lastly, please consider clicking that like button and give us a big thumbs up for service. I also like to think that financial under-earners are really just prosperous people who are trapped inside of a deprivation and scarcity box. And somehow when we're able to open up that box and remove the financial under-earner from being stuck in that box, suddenly the whole world opens up to them and they can begin to become the person who they were truly meant to be, which is a person who would gravitate towards prosperity and serenity and recovery in a positive way. It's just that while they were trapped in the box of their compulsive disease, they kept trying to live smaller and smaller, to live inside of a box that was always shrinking and getting smaller and smaller. But once a person is able to break out of the box, the world opens up, and then the person can expand, their recovery can expand, their vision for their future can expand, and their hopes and dreams can expand, as well as their relationship with their higher power and their earning power, which both of those also will expand as well. I've also noticed that over the course of doing the steps, that as a person's disease is slowly put into remission, the true nature of who they were meant to be starts to surface. Usually, people have the ability to be what they were meant to be unless something suppresses that. And usually when it comes to addiction, that suppression happens over a long period of time, and it happens very slowly, kind of like boiling a frog. I've found that financial under-earners have a tremendous capacity to heal, to thrive, and to prosper, to build their wealth, their savings, and to live an incredibly financially abundant life. But there's a thing that is in the way of them achieving that, and that thing is their disease. Let's talk about nature, as you see nature all around me. And by the way, I love being around nature, except for the bugs, but that's another part. Most of the time with nature, whether it's a tree or a plant or grass or anything, things that grow don't need to be told what to do. They already know how to grow. It's coded into what they are. It's wired into their DNA, the same way my brown eyes and my black hair is coded into my DNA. I never had to think about turning my hair dark or turning my eyes brown. My body knew what to do to create these kind of colors. The only thing I get to choose is the color of my shirt. But in that way, plants don't need to be told what to do. They don't need to be told how to thrive. As long as a plant is in an environment where the conditions cultivate it and nurture it and allow it to be what it was meant to be, the plant automatically knows what to do, and the plant will grow, or the tree will grow, or the vegetables or the fruit will grow. All of those things, they know how to grow, they know how to develop themselves as long as they're in an environment where they have healthy soil and enough sun and enough water. So as long as the conditions are right to nurture them and cultivate them and give them what they need to become what they're meant to be, they will become what they are meant to be, and they know how to do it intuitively and naturally. In the same way, I've found that financial under-earners have the ability to know and become a prosperous, thriving, abundant person who lives a wonderful life, just as all addicts have the ability to thrive and grow and to live a wonderful life full of serenity and higher power. They have the ability to move in that direction, and that is their natural trajectory, except that something comes along and detours them off of their path. And sometimes that detour, going off on another direction, going off on a tangent, sometimes that lasts for 5, 10, 20, 30, or 40 years, depending on the nature of the disease that sidetracks them. But once they are finally able to get into recovery, if they're able to get into recovery, because some people don't, but for those who do, once they're able to get into recovery and the disease is put into remission and their higher power, and in financial UA also our earning power comes in to cultivate and nurture that person and to create those conditions that are optimal for that person to grow and heal and develop, naturally that financial under-earner will start to become prosperous and abundant. They don't need a huge amount of correction other than some gentle and loving guidance from their sponsor and the rest of their support team, such as their PRG team, action partners, action group, prosperity team, or what have you. People in recovery naturally start to thrive once they're in an environment that is conducive, nurturing, healthy, and which cultivates their ability to thrive. As we move towards closure, please visit us at www.financialua.org or email us at financialua@gmail.com. Now let's close with our prosperity prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity to afford it. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and helping to hold this space for healing and recovery. Please help us carry the message by subscribing to our channel and even maybe sharing this video with others. Most important, keep coming back.